Welcome to Las Vegas Fashion TV. I'm your host for today, Lorena Palos. If you're new here, this is a new channel that's hoping to bring you the creativity, passion, and even the struggles that fashion designers face, and not just in Las Vegas, but all throughout the world. We hope to bring you the raw, honest truth of what it is to be a fashion designer. With us today, we have Alyssa from Alyssa Casa Designs, and she is going to tell us about her story about deciding to be a designer very early on. Alyssa, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Alyssa, tell us a little bit about some of the activities you were doing growing up.
So some of the activities that I did growing up was I started acting when I was 6 years old, and I absolutely fell in love with being in front of the camera. And then when I was 9, I decided to do modeling and pageants, which that I loved even more. And then a little bit later on, after I saw backstage at fashion shows for modeling, like what designers really do backstage and putting on fashion shows, I decided that this was the career for me.
Gotcha. So very early on, you decided that you wanted to be a fashion designer.
Yes, definitely.
So when did you decide to actually put into action, and did you start actually sewing?
Well, I started sewing when I was just 9 years old. You see, when my family immigrated to the United States from Poland, they were all seamstresses. They sewed wedding dresses. So that was kind of something that happened in my family, is everybody taught everybody how to sew, and that was something that we all knew. So I kind of figured maybe I'd grow up to be a seamstress. I thought that when I was about 9 years old, but then when I was a little bit older, I decided, no, I want to be a fashion designer.
Gotcha. And is that through your family? Is that where you learned to actually sew and make it into these beautiful designs?
Yes, that is how I learned how to sew, was through my family.
Gotcha. Did you ever go to school for fashion designing?
I did take a couple of fashion design and sewing classes here and there. I have not yet gone to school for fashion design. All my applications are into all the fashion design schools in New York, so I'm hoping to get in, but I haven't yet attended a fashion design college.
Gotcha. That's really something that you have in you already. So tell me a little bit about where your inspiration comes from.
So a lot of my inspiration comes from traveling and nature and a lot of the events that I go to. I kind of pick up inspiration from sometimes even just random things. But the one that I love the best is nature. I've taken inspiration from pictures of frozen waterfalls and even rocks and traveling, and just stuff like that is my favorite place to get inspiration from, but overall my inspiration can come from everywhere.
Kind of, it's just something that comes to you. And when it hits you, tell me about your process. Does it happen where you have an idea and right away you make it into a design, or do you sketch it first?
How my process starts is just kind of what I feel like doing, to be completely honest. I do a little bit of everything. Obviously, they all start in my head. I have a very vivid imagination, so I picture it in my head and I kind of tweak it and move stuff around in there. And if I decide that I actually want to see it on paper, then I actually sketch my designs first, only sometimes. And then that's when I start the creative process. But sometimes if I just have that picture in my head and I'm like, I know what I'm doing, then I'll just start sewing.
Gotcha. Do you have any kind of fabrics or materials that you prefer to use more than others?
So I actually prefer to use more formal fabrics. Not always, but a good portion of the time. I like silk, satin, lace, silk chiffon, organza, so very formal, high-end type of fabrics are my favorite.
Gotcha. So sewing can actually be very frustrating, and there could be a lot of flaws and hiccups in the process. Have you ever had that happen to you where something doesn't quite come out the way that you expected it to come out?
Oh, nothing ever goes as planned. Barely ever. This happens with every collection and all the time, especially when I was first learning. And of course, I'm still learning now, because when it comes to the fashion industry, sewing and fashion, you're always learning. You're learning new techniques, how to work with different fabrics. The learning process always continues. And with learning, there comes a little bit of frustration, there comes mess ups. It happens all the time. So a lot of times with sewing, it's just trial and error. If something doesn't work, you just try something else.
Of course, it's the never giving up and just keep going until you get it right, correct?
Yes.
So you speak about getting your ideas from traveling and nature, even things as simple as rocks. Do you have a specific style that you prefer, something that defines you?
My specific style is definitely a little bit more on the girly type of side. That's just kind of who I am and what I like, so that's a little bit of who I'm designing for. Also, my style has a lot of embellishments, a lot of cool fabrics with different textures and beads and rhinestones and pearls. I like using things that are just a little bit different, but nothing too crazy that nobody wants to buy it. So that's kind of my style.
Gotcha. Can you tell me a little bit about when you create a design, who you make it with in mind? So any gender in specific, any age group in specific?
So I can design for pretty much everyone, and I kind of have over the years. But overall, the age range of who I design for is mostly teenagers, kind of 14 to age 20 is mainly who I'm designing for. And nothing is, as extreme as a wedding dress or a ball gown, but things are on the nicer side, a little bit formal, but you can wear these designs to a lot of different events. That's who I design for.
I understand. So I remember earlier you spoke about being in beauty pageants and how you love doing that. Have you ever done any fashion designing competitions?
I actually kind of tried to be in a fashion designer competition once. I made it to the final round of casting for Project Runway Junior when I was 13, and the casting director and the producers, they absolutely loved me. However, I was sadly too young. They found out that I couldn't work the filming schedule for the state of New York. I was just legally too young. There was nothing they could do about it, so that's why I wasn't on the show.
Well, when you have the talent, it's only a matter of time, right?
Yes.
So tell me, are you ever going to present them, or have you ever presented any of your collections in Fashion Week?
Yes, I have presented collections at Fashion Week. The first time I showed a collection at New York Fashion Week was my Rose Petals collection. I was 16 years old. And then 2 weeks later, I turned 17 and I went off to Paris and I showed a collection at Paris Fashion Week, which was very exciting. And then a few months later, I once again showed a collection at New York Fashion Week, and here we are a year later and I'm showing another collection at New York Fashion Week.
Wow, that's really amazing. You've taken your collections to some really big stages and already achieved some amazing goals, so congratulations for that. Alyssa, is there anything else that you would like to add for our viewers? Anything you would like to say to them?
One thing that I would like to say to the viewers is that being a fashion designer is a lot of hard work. I know it looks very glamorous, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. There's a lot of days where I don't fully feel inspired to design. There's other days where it's late nights and early mornings and I'm sewing and I'm trying to contact different people from all over the world to make these shows happen. So it's a lot of work. Sometimes it's really frustrating, but I just want to tell the viewers that you should never give up on your dream. Never give up just because it's hard. You should push through it. It is 100% worth it. I know there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that I have to do to make this collection happen, but when I see people wearing my clothes and being happy because they feel good in my clothes, that's what makes being a fashion designer so worth it. And that's why I put in such a hard work. It's a lot of long days, it's a lot of hard work, so that's why all of it is worth it, and that's why I love being a fashion designer.
That's amazing. Honestly, everybody is really great about seeing your successes and your goals that you've already achieved, but a lot of people don't take the time to see everything you've gone through to get there. So it's amazing that you're letting our viewers know that, and to keep encouraging them to go after their own dreams and to not give up, even though, like you mentioned, it does get tough. Alyssa, thank you for the time you've given us today. I really hope to have you back here with us after Fashion Week to tell us a little bit about how that went, what struggles you had to get over and overcome. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
I would like to say just thank you for having me on the show. I love having opportunities like this.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. Vegas Fashion TV viewers, make sure you follow Alyssa and all her social media.
Follow me on Instagram at Alyssa Casa and Alyssa Casa Designs. Also follow me on Twitter at Casa Alyssa, and my YouTube channel is Alyssa C. Casa. Thank you.
Alrighty guys, thank you so much for being here with us at Las Vegas Fashion TV. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and comment if you would like to see anybody in particular for us to interview. Thank you so much for your time. See you next time.